folks, it's Jeff here. Just a quick reminder, if you're loving Disney Coast to Coast, there are a couple of easy ways that you can support the show. We'd love it if you could rate and review us on iTunes, or wherever you listen to the show. This is a simple way to help other Disney fans find us. Also, go ahead and share your favorite episodes on social media and be sure to tag us. You can find all of our social media information at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. And finally, I just want to say thank you to all of you who listen every week. Your support is very appreciated, and we love that you're enjoying our Disney geekiness. Now on with the show.
Is your magic meter running low? Well, we've got a cure for you. Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePaoli, and today on the show I have my good friend Jonathan Harvill joining me. Hello, Jonathan. How's it going?
Hey, Jeff. Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Happy to have you here. Are you ready and excited to talk Dumbo?
I'm ready and excited to talk about one Dumbo film, yes.
Okay, I like that. Sneak peek right there. Okay, let's get into it right now.
Grab some popcorn and silence your cell phones, because it's time for the Disney Movie Review.
So as you all probably know, this past weekend, the live-action Tim Burton Dumbo was released in theaters, so that of course inspired this episode, where we're going back and looking at the original animated Dumbo, as well as the new Tim Burton Dumbo, and our thoughts on them, and it definitely sounds like Jonathan has some thoughts on them. But shall we start with the animated film?
Yeah, let's do that.
So, but Dumbo was a really interesting moment in Walt Disney Animation history, because I feel like we hear about these so often, but like Dumbo had to succeed, or else the Walt Disney Company as we know it may not exist, because after Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, they had so many flops. Of course, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was 1937, Pinocchio was 1940, and although it's like critically acclaimed, it doesn't make its money back. Same with Fantasia. Then there was Dumbo, which if you really compare the animation of Dumbo to Pinocchio, Fantasia, Snow White, oh my goodness, it looks like a child's coloring book.
Right.
And then it was followed by Bambi in 1942. But Dumbo was an important piece of the puzzle for the Walt Disney Company. And, you know, it was a cheaper film to make because the animation quality was much easier. But on top of that, it's a 63-minute movie. That's a short movie. And I don't think it needs to be any longer. It's just really funny when you think of it. I'm like, oh, wow, it's literally 63 minutes. It's pretty much a Netflix TV show episode at this point. But in any case, so what did you think of the original Dumbo? You rewatched it recently, yeah? Had it been a long time since you'd seen it?
It had been a few years, yeah. So I grew up watching it as a kid, and then probably watched it about like 6-7 years ago, and then watched it the morning before I saw the new one. And yeah, it was so good.
It's so good. It's like way better, I think, than people realize or remember, you know?
Yeah. And immediately you can tell, and I mean this in the best way, that it is a cheaper film. You know, the animation's just simpler. Obviously the runtime, it's, I mean, essentially like a television special length, you know, like a holiday special or something like that. Well, actually even maybe a little bit longer, but yeah, you can just tell, that it's just a simpler film, and obviously revisiting it, it's such a simple, straightforward story. But I mean, and we'll of course go into this, but I think that pays off so well, and that contributes to it being so timeless, is because it tells its story in such an efficient but effective way.
And heartbreaking way.
Oh,
this is, you know, for years, I've always said the saddest Disney movie for me was The Fox and the Hound.
Mm.
And now rewatching Dumbo, I'm like,
Yeah.
This may be the saddest Disney movie ever created.
Yeah.
And it's like heart-wrenchingly sad. I was a baby watching it. It really was.
And I'm not ashamed to admit it. I was watching it with my wife, Brooke, and
You sent me the cutest text. This made me laugh so much.
I forget. What did I say?
You're like, I was hiding my face in the pillow.
I grabbed a pillow right when the song started because I knew it was going to happen, and I just was crying so much. And it hits you right there. Oh my goodness, that scene is so sad, but so good.
Yeah,
It's so
you're talking
iconic.
about Baby Mine, of
Of
course.
course, yes.
Yeah.
It's such a sweet lullaby, and the juxtaposition of, I mean, I can't even talk about it that much. Dumbo not being able to essentially be cuddled by his mother. They're just able to essentially touch trunks, and she just kind of cradles him in her trunk, while all these other scenes of different animals, mothers and children being together.
Yeah.
They can't be together. Oh my goodness. And it's just a testament to, I mean, the combination of the great score, the songs, and of course just the animation. These characters so simply animated, but just in that combination of all that, it's just so effective.
Yeah, it's shocking how effective it is, because
Yes.
none of us are surprised by it at this point, right? We've seen
Right.
it. We know
Right.
what the scene is, but when it comes up in the film, it's unbelievable. Anyway, we've jumped ahead a little bit, but one of the things that I find so interesting about some of these older Disney animated films, have you ever noticed how they always have like a choral choir? As it's not as much about the characters singing songs.
Yes.
Now, some characters do sing songs, but there's often just the whole choir singing, and the film starts that way with the storks delivering all these babies and
Right.
this choir singing during it. And it kind of hit me as I was watching. I was like, they did that a lot during the older animated films.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even in like, there's like a choir in the background of "When You Wish Upon a Star" and Pinocchio.
Hmm.
Yeah, all these old songs, and that is another thing. The score in this stood out to me a lot more, and it's the guy. Is it Ned Washington, or did he do the lyrics?
I'm not sure.
He did the lyrics. He did the same. He wrote the songs for Pinocchio, but who I can't remember who did the score for this film. But that really stood out to me. It was right from the start, just the overture. It was really, really well done.
I did have a question during that whole sequence, and it was this. So the storks are coming to deliver all the babies, but I am curious, why is like everybody at this one circus having babies on the same night?
Well, it's the winter, right? I mean, the circus isn't running, so
So
maybe
it's time to have a baby?
it's mating season. I don't know.
I don't know, but I was like, oh, they're all having babies on the same night. And that's the first really sad moment of the film, because we see Mrs. Jumbo watching all these storks fly by, waiting for her baby, and the baby doesn't arrive. And you're just like, oh gosh, Mrs. Jumbo.
Yeah,
So sad.
so sad.
So right from the beginning, it's like a gut punch.
Oh yeah, the stork, Sterling Holloway, voice of Winnie the Pooh. That was a great little treat.
I was going to ask you about that. I'm glad I didn't make that my trivia question. But yeah, that was a very recognizable voice, the stork that brings the baby to Mrs. Jumbo. Eventually, she gets her baby. And the song that really is so darn catchy to me in this movie is the Casey Jr. song. Oh my goodness. That is just like the catchiest little tune in this entire film. And I love that whole sequence with the train, because I love the custom train compartments for the different animals. So we see like the hippos get into a pool in the train, and the giraffes have like holes in the roof so that their long necks can stick
around their neck. Yeah,
so cute. And of course we meet baby Dumbo, who is maybe just the cutest Disney character of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, so cute. Oh,
so cute. And not to skip ahead, but I think in the new one, it's a similar kind of thing. It's the eyes, and of course the ears stand out, but the eyes kind of tell you everything. And those like sweet baby blue eyes, I mean, just reach through the screen and just pull your heart out.
And they have to, because Dumbo never speaks, which is unbelievable if you think about it.
Right.
The main character of the film never speaks, and yet like we have such an emotional connection to him, and we understand everything he's thinking and saying. Unbelievable animation when you think about it. And speaking of, so we were talking a little earlier about how much more simple the animation was in this film, but I gotta say, there is one thing in this film that I'm like, there are moments that I'm like, this is completely unnecessary. And at this point, I feel like the Walt Disney Animation Studios had perfected water and rain, because if you notice, there's a ton of rain in this movie that often isn't necessary, at least in my opinion. I'm like, why is it raining in this scene? I kind of feel like that was their kind of like show off moment.
Just flexing a little bit.
Yeah, where they're like, okay, listen, we're making a quote unquote simple animated film, but at least add in this effect of rain that we do so well that gives it a little finesse or something. I don't know. I had that thought watching it. Were there any specific like favorite funny moments in this film? Because I actually found it to be quite comical.
Yeah. Timothy Mouse was great. I know the character. I mean, I remembered the character mostly just from the attraction in the parks, but never really had an emotional attachment to the character. But I loved his like Brooklyn wisecracking, persona. So I really enjoyed that character this time around.
Now, does Timothy... I was watching the film and at the end I was like, does anybody ever say Timothy's name? Do we know that his name is Timothy? Does he introduce himself? I can't remember.
That would probably be the only time, but I don't even know if he introduces himself.
Yeah, I was watching it and I'm like, I know his name is Timothy Mouse, but like, at that moment, I didn't remember him introducing himself, and I was like, and I don't think any character ever refers to him by name, because like the only one that really knows him is Dumbo, and Dumbo doesn't speak. So I thought that was interesting. Little funny moment. I loved when they were hammering the stakes in the ground to build the tent, and they were like the elephant trunks are going one after the other, and then like little Dumbo's trying to help, and he's just useless.
Yes, so cute.
He's so cute. And then the circus on parade, and the gorilla rips the bar out and then puts it back into place.
Yes.
A lot of really good moments. Now, of course, this is a very touching movie, and one of the things I really liked about this film was like baby Dumbo, he doesn't realize that like he's an outcast at the beginning of the film. And, he's got these giant ears, but like he's cool with them. He has, it's that whole thing when you're a kid, like you're just completely oblivious to what's quote unquote wrong with you in the eyes of the world.
Absolutely. And yeah, that first scene in the parade before he's being ridiculed or realizes he's being ridiculed, it's like he's loud and proud walking through the parade because all he needs is his mother's love, and that's what he gets, and he's happy and he's content and he's proud. And and I think that's just very realistic as a kid. If you're encouraged and loved, there's just like an innocence to that before kind of the realities of the world kind of I think take that away.
Yeah, so sad. Now, of course, Dumbo's mother gets taken away from him because she essentially gets abusive to some kids at the circus who are teasing Dumbo. Did you notice in this scene that like those beautiful blue eyes that Mrs. Jumbo has turned red?
Yes.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's
very, very, blatant or, just very blatant the way it's just simply using colors. It's literally changing the color of the eyes, but it tells you all you need to know with the story. Yeah,
and this is when she gets quarantined to her own little cage and taken away from Dumbo. And, as I'm watching it, I was like, if this were real life, she'd be dead. She wouldn't be quarantined.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, they would have killed her. Did you know that back in the day, this is kind of gruesome, but like back in the day of Coney Island, they used to kill elephants as like entertainment. They used to...
Whoa, I had no...
Yeah.
I had no idea.
They used to like electrically shock the elephants. I've seen video of it. It's horrible. But I really love the history of Coney Island. And so I was watching a documentary once, and you just see like... First of all, elephants are like easily my top 3 animals. Like I love elephants. I love horses. Those are probably my top 2. I love elephants. I think they're just beautiful. And whenever I see them on Kilimanjaro safaris, that's like my favorite part. I just love elephants. And frankly, if I could have like a baby elephant that never grew, I would be all for that. Like
even better if it had big ears, right?
Even better. As long as it didn't like trip over them all the time. I'd feel really bad if it tripped over their ears all the time. Yeah. But I don't know. Do you like elephants? Do they have like hold a particular? Well, sure, I'm sure you don't dislike them, but like, do they hold a particular soft spot in your heart? Because they do for me.
I mean, honestly, probably because of Dumbo.
Okay.
Growing up with this film, but yeah, Kilimanjaro. I always loved seeing those in the attraction. So yeah, I mean, I maybe have another top 3 animals, but I do love elephants, of course.
Okay, what are your top 3 animals?
Well, I mean, I got to say dogs, right? So I love my dog, and so I love dogs. I love
Monkeys. Oh my gosh. Little
I love
chimps are so cute.
gorillas. I love gorillas. They're
Yeah.
fascinating to me. And probably dolphins. I love like
Dolphin. Okay.
undersea animals, fish. They amaze me. So
I like it. It's a good choice. I like it. Anyway, so I was go back to the Coney Island thing for a second. So we're getting into that, and then it was like I love elephants, and this is why it made me so sad. On this documentary I was watching, like they literally used to just hook these elephants up to like electrical wires and like zap them, and you'd see the elephant collapse, and that was like entertainment for the folks at Coney Island.
and it's like
It's
what that
very
was
weird.
probably 100 years ago at this point.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, it's really not that long ago.
Listen, this is a whole conversation that many people will disagree with me with, but I have the same feeling when it comes to like boxing. I don't understand why people will sit in an arena and watch people beat up other people. Like that makes no sense to me. It's barbaric. It's only a few degrees away from watching folks kill each other in a coliseum. Or, watching a hanging. Like, I never understood the delight that people get and stuff like that. It's weird to me.
Yeah, and I've never been into it. I think the thing is, at least the two boxers are like they signed on for it. Like they both want to do it versus, I don't know, like an execution or something like that.
Sure. Obviously there's a difference there, but I don't know. Just watching people, it's actually really funny. God, this is a tangent. But so I watch the TV show Survivor. I love Survivor. I'm one of those nerds who has literally
Still going?
Oh yes, I've seen every single episode of the past. I think we're at 38 seasons now. Never missed an episode. And like you ask anybody that I watch Survivor with, whenever they're doing the challenges, people get banged up real bad. It just goes from falling, tripping, hitting their heads on stuff. And every time that happens, I'm like, like it really, I just have a physical reaction. I don't like watching people get hurt. So just even with the boxing thing, I'm like,
I think that's a good thing, right? It's a sympathetic thing.
Sure, I guess so. But it's weird to me that some people find that to be entertaining. And so I'll never really...
Do you call Derek Lewis after you watch Survivor so you guys can talk about it?
We do text. We text. Yes, my fellow friend over at the Mad Chatters will text to be like, ooh, good season, or ooh, bad season, or we get nerdy about Survivor. So, in any case, back to Dumbo. One thing I was watching thinking as I watched this was I never noticed how much like Timothy felt like Jiminy Cricket to me.
Yeah.
He really has like, he's kind of Dumbo's conscience, or at least he like gives him really good advice. And I think that that's kind of cool. One of the scenes that, as I was watching, was like, wow, this must have been quite a challenge to animate. Is that scene where the elephants are climbing each other and making like the pyramid at the circus?
Yeah.
It's like, it's funny because as you watch it, okay, obviously this would never happen in real life, but the way it's animated is so quote unquote realistic. Just the way that like the skin wrinkles, when the feet touch. I don't know. I was just like, I believe this. Obviously, it's animated, but I could totally see this happening.
No, absolutely. I think even just like a decade before, and that was, Disney pioneered that. Animation before was so rubbery and for lack of a better term, cartoony and just exaggerated. But Disney really blended that realism with what audiences knew as the animated form, so you still had some exaggerated movements and facial expressions, but you also related to these things. So I think that it feeling realistic was, I agree with that.
And I think the best way to describe it is you could feel the gravity of the scene. Like it felt like those were heavy elephants on top of each other. And that's impressive. As much as we like to say, oh, this was like a simple animated film, it was, but it wasn't. Like, it wasn't simple. It was just a simpler style than what we had been used to, especially coming off of stuff like Fantasia, which was so much realism and such. But it's just a completely different skill set, I guess. I did find it funny, the shame of being a clown in this, because I actually always as a kid wanted to be in a circus, and I loved circuses. And
to be a clown?
Yeah, I wanted to be a clown.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like that would have been so much fun in a past
Is that
life.
where you're so into horror stuff?
Yeah, listen, I have many juxtaposing tastes in my life. Listen, Disney horror, it all makes sense, right? But no, I totally wanted to be a clown, and I thought it was funny how in this film it was like, oh gosh, they're clowns, and it was like degrading to be a clown. I thought that was quite funny. Other tangent, by the way, I just heard or read that there's a documentary coming out about the final year of Barnum and Bailey Ringling Brothers Circus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which I find fascinating. I find the history of circus fascinating, and yes, there were problems with it, and I understand why it's like slowly disappearing, but at the same time, I loved going to the circus as a kid, and now I like think about, you know, my niece and nephew who will be like, the circus will be this thing to them that never really existed. There's still some out there, but it's not like what it used to be.
Right.
And that's just really interesting to me. But in any case, tangent-filled episode, ladies and gentlemen. Yay!
That's what we do.
Yes. Now, the sequence in this film, I know a lot of people love it. I hate it. I hate it even more in the live-action film. You're going to say you love it, don't you? Elephants on Parade.
I'll say in the animated, I love it. I think it's fantastic.
I really don't. To me, this is what Elephants on Parade feels like. So the rule to being a feature film is it needs to be at least 60 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, Elephants on Parade feels like, crap, we need to fill in a few minutes. Let's get, obviously Dumbo getting drunk is kind of essential to the story because this is how he learns how to fly in the animated film. So like that is a necessary part of the story, but I don't know. Elephants on Parade, I don't care for it. I don't care for the song very much. I definitely don't like the animation during it, but some people it's like their favorite moment. So it sounds like you kind of like it.
I do. Well, really quick, you don't like the song, but it was in the original Fantasmic, right?
Yes, I know. And I've always, that's always been like my least favorite sequences in the OG Fantasmic.
Yeah. They took it out then, I assume, in the new one?
I'm trying to remember. I've only seen it a few times. I can't remember. I feel like there's a little bit of a tribute to it, but I don't think it's as long a sequence as it was, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, no, and I agree that it's it goes on. You're like, oh, this is still happening. Like it's still going on. Because it is a pretty big diversion from the story. But just the animation and their willingness and their decision to say, no, we're just going to go for it and make it super weird. I really dug that. And it just really stands out. I think it's really, really iconic. And again, not to skip ahead, you mentioned it a little bit, the new one. I did not like it in the new one.
Well, it was 1,000% unnecessary in the new one. Yes. So this is the reason why it makes a bit of sense in the animated film is Dumbo is drunk. He falls into a bucket of water where the clowns dropped a bottle of booze into it. And so Dumbo is essentially drunk, or he doesn't fall in. He drinks the water, right? He somehow consumes the alcohol. And so he's drunk. So I get it. He's seeing these weird things in his drunken state. That is not a part of the live action film, so it really made no sense at that moment. But I feel like it's one of those things where people are just like, oh, you think Dumbo? A lot of people think Elephants on Parade, and so it has to be part of it. Right. But I don't know. It even bummed me out in the trailer because when I heard there was the live action Dumbo, to be completely honest, I was very interested in it from the beginning just because of my love of circus, and I remember them releasing a couple of still shots of Tim Burton on the train and stuff. I was like, ooh, I really like this style. It was the first time in a long time I was excited for a Tim Burton movie, and I was like, oh well, and Elephants on Parade probably won't be necessary. I should have known though, it being a Tim Burton movie, that of course like the weirdest thing from the original would be in the live action, and they showed a piece of it in the trailer, and I was like, oh gosh, we're getting Elephants on Parade. Oof, bummer.
I don't know. That was a scene because I know. I don't know, Tim Burton's visual style. I was excited to see that, just to see how weird he could take it. So again, not to skip ahead, but that's part of why I was so disappointed, because it was just such a throwaway moment. I didn't know this, that seeing pink elephants that is actually like a euphemism for hallucination, drunken hallucination.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
I didn't know it either. I was Googling over the weekend just the song. So look at the lyrics again. But then I found this. Yeah, it's a euphemism that dates back to early 20th century. So Jack London's novel John Barleycorn, he quotes, is said to hallucinate blue mice and pink elephants. So I just thought that was, so I guess it was a term that was familiar at the time.
Interesting.
So I love that now we just associate it with a Disney song.
Yeah, it's kind of like Grim Grinning Ghosts. That is not a Haunted Mansion term yet, a Shakespearean term yet.
Yes.
We think, at least I think, Haunted Mansion when I hear that. So cool.
Can I go on a slight tangent here?
Yeah, of course. Hello, this is Disney Coast to Coast. Of course you can go on a tangent.
We were talking about Coney Island. When I lived in the city, I went to Coney Island a few times, and I
have still never been.
That blows my mind.
Here's the thing. So here's a tangent to this tangent. So I usually go to New York City in winter months. So Coney Island is closed. I shouldn't say I've never been. I have driven there once and honestly in a snow blizzard. Yeah. And I got out of the car and looked around, but of course everything was closed. So I was not able to enjoy it. I was supposed to go when I went in April of 2017, I believe it was. I was supposed to go to Coney Island, and I had it in the calendar and everything. This was the trip I went to see Bette Midler and Hello Dolly, and I had tickets to Anastasia. And then I had this third day where I was going to go to Coney Island.
Oh yeah. Wait, this was a couple years ago, right?
Yeah. When I met up with you there. So I was supposed to go to Coney Island. And then Glenn Close announces she's coming to Broadway and Sunset Boulevard. And I was like, oh, there's no way. Coney Island will be there for a while. I'm going to see Glenn Close and Sunset Boulevard. I don't regret the decision, but I'm sad I still have not experienced Coney Island as I will. So that's my tangent to your tangent. So let's go back to your tangent of Coney Island.
Well, Coney Island being closed, another slight tangent. Coney Island being closed shouldn't turn you away. Brooke and I went one time at we took the train. We were like, yeah, let's go to Coney Island. It was 1 a.m. Totally not safe, but we did it. We were like, let's just be adventurous. All the lights were still on.
Oh wow!
But it was closed and no one was there. It was so creepy and it was foggy, but it was awesome. Have you seen Us? Have you seen Jordan
Yes, I saw Us. Yeah. Okay.
Kind of like that. So super creepy, and just glad I didn't see my doppelganger. Back to my I went on this. They have this creepy, haunted, cheap dark ride underneath the Ferris wheel, and they also have a shooting gallery, but a haunted shooting gallery, and they were playing Grim Grinning Ghosts. Oh. And I was like, how do they get away with this? Disney must not have any idea.
Yeah, so. Disney's not paying attention. But now that they're listening to Disney Coast to Coast and hearing that, Coney Island will get a cease and desist.
Yes, exactly. So
yes.
In tangent.
Nice. I like that tangent. Good tangent. Anyway, we've gotten to the point of the racist crows and Dumbo, which... I'm not the man. I'm not the person to say anything, but I don't know. To me, they're stereotypical.
Yes,
more than racist. But I know there's a big upset over these crows. But we get the classic song from them, "When I See an Elephant Fly," which you can't imagine the film without that song.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
It's a fun sequence.
I mean, it's even in Festival of Fantasy parade at Magic Kingdom today.
Yeah,
yeah. So iconic song. And look, we're two white guys talking about this, so limited perspective, of course, but yeah, I mean, I think it is interesting that it is more of a stereotype versus, I think, blatantly racist. And I think there are also positive characters, they're the ones that urge Dumbo on to essentially fly. So I think that's cool.
Yeah. Now there was a moment after when Dumbo and Timothy are leaving the Black Crows that made my heart melt. And I'm sure that this was a very specific choice on the animator's part. I'm curious if you caught this. But this is the first moment, at least that I remember seeing, where when they're walking away, Timothy's in the front, Dumbo's behind. And Dumbo, with his trunk, grabs Timothy's tail the way that we see him grab his mother's tail in the parade at the beginning of the film. And I was like, oh my gosh, it melted my heart, because you just see the amount of trust that Dumbo has in Timothy. He's become like a paternal figure for him. And I just I loved it. Like that next to Baby Mine. That was the moment that I was like, oh my gosh, this poor little elephant is just the cutest thing ever. And, oh, my heart melts for him.
So sweet. Yeah.
Did you notice that moment though?
I don't remember that actually. So I'm excited to see that again.
Yeah, go back and check that out because it's a nice moment. Oh, Mrs. Jumbo, we miss her. Anyway, then of course he learns to fly. We get the final circus where Dumbo becomes a star, and then he's reunited with his mom. No real explanation other than the fact that like he's making the circus a lot of money, so like, let's let this dangerous. It's not like Dumbo explains to the circus owner, no, you don't understand. She was just protecting me. They were just like, the baby's making a lot of money. Let's bring the mother back.
Yeah. It's a pretty rushed ending.
Yeah. Admittedly, the live action film, this animated film is like the first third of the movie.
Right.
So it's kind of, regardless of what people think about the live action film, it is kind of nice to be like, oh, well, what happened after? I mean, we just see Dumbo at the beginning of becoming a star.
Right.
Well, what happened to him after that? And we get some of those answers, whether or not we like them. We get some of them in the live action film. So I found that to be interesting.
When I was doing some research for this, I actually pulled our good friend Aaron Wallace's book, Thinking Fan's Guide to Walt Disney World Magic Kingdom book out. And I went to the Dumbo section just to see what he had to say about that and in relation to the film. And he talks about how, how like on the carousel, there are the murals, and then in Dumbo, there are the murals from the film that kind of tell the story. Mm-hmm. And the last mural is at the end of the movie. And so we're just supposed to kind of assume like this is Dumbo right after the film taking flight. And so we get to kind of join Dumbo in that flight, which I thought was kind of a cool idea.
Sure. I just never bought the fact of like, why are there however many Dumbos? Like there's only one Dumbo, right? But originally, actually, that attraction was supposed to be pink elephants.
Right.
So that actually makes way more sense. I get it. Kids don't care about riding. First of all, you shouldn't fly on a drunken elephant. Let's just put that out there. And I get it. But if you're going to go with that storytelling thought, I guess you have to justify why is there more than one Dumbo. It's all right.
We all get to share the moment with Dumbo, right?
Yeah. Now, did you know that actually I forget which park it is, but they were creating a new Dumbo attraction, same ride, but new for a new park. Mm-hmm. And they removed the pink hat Dumbo because so many boys refused to fly in the pink hat and it like held up the line.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm. I could totally picture that. Young boys are totally, I'm not going to ride in the pink one. Like, I could totally see that happening. And so there is no pink hat on at least one of the Dumbo attractions for that reason. It was holding up the line.
That's ridiculous. So ridiculous.
Well, we're grown men, so yes, that is ridiculous.
Yourself,
but imagine a 4-year-old boy. I can totally picture that happening. I'm not saying I had a fit as a child. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't. But in any case, anything else you want to say about the animated film before we like fully dive into the live action Tim Burton movie?
Well, I was reading part of Stephen Watt's biography on Walt Disney, just called The Magic.
I'm not comfortable with the amount of plugs you're giving today. It's just really me.
Sorry, you check out all these things, but first, of course, subscribe to but one of the animators, Bill Titla, I think it's Titla. He was interviewed back in 1941 with Time magazine, and he was just talking about Dumbo as a kid. And he said, most of the expressions and mannerisms I got from my own kid. There's nothing there's nothing theatrical about a 2-year-old kid. They're real and sincere, and I tried to put all those things in Dumbo. And I just thought that kind of sums up everything about the film, sums up everything about the character, the animation, the mother-son story. And it's just cool to see it all kind of came from real experience and from the heart. So I thought that was just kind of a nice way to sum up the animated film.
Yeah, even when they were trying to make a quote-unquote simple movie, a Walt Disney animation, it still has so much attention paid to it. It's just a different style, but very, very. What is it? Don Hahn has this great quote. Oh, animation is not. It's not a genre. It's a style, I believe, is what he says. Basically saying, like, everybody goes at the Academy Awards, for instance, like best animated film, but it's like, well, there are animated films that are comedies, there are animated films that are dramas, like they're different just because it's animation. So Dumbo's kind of that way, just because it's a simpler animation style. Yeah, it's still like this amazing thing that they created. Yeah, I love it.
Brad Bird most recently has been using that argument as well, because a bunch of angry parents were tweeting at him after Incredibles 2, because there are like a couple curse words or something. They're like, I took my kids to Incredibles 2 because I thought it was a safe kids movie. And he was like, look, they're like, it's a cartoon, it's for kids. He's like, no. This is an animated film. It's a genre. This is for everybody. Also, your kids, like, I don't know.
First of all, there weren't curse words. And second of all, what was it rated? Was it rated PG or? PG. Yeah. It's PG. Okay, well, parental guidance is suggested. Ay, Chihuahua. Anywho, let's get into the live action 2019 movie directed by the one and only Tim Burton. And as I mentioned, I love Tim Burton, but it has been a long time since I really wanted to see a Tim Burton movie. I never checked out the Alice in Wonderland films. The last several films of his, I
never saw them.
Never something, zero interest whatsoever. Yeah.
I mean, I don't love them. I'm just surprised that you didn't check them out, because at least the first one was a big hit.
Yeah, I didn't. It didn't look good to me. And like his Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I didn't care for. So I don't know. There was this whole period of time where like I was just really disappointed by Tim Burton stuff. And of course, I love. Like one of my favorite films of his is Edward Scissorhands. I think that is a masterpiece. I really like Batman Returns. Of course, I love Nightmare Before Christmas. He does a lot of stuff I've really loved, but it had just been a long time. And this Dumbo looked really good to me. And I will say, I enjoyed this film. I would give it like a B minus. It sounds like you disliked this film.
Yeah, and it wasn't. And I was going into very hopeful and just rooting for it. Not just like, I mean, it's an underdog character, underdog movie. But an underdog movie in that, Tim Burton I don't think he's given a great film in a long time. So I'm just kind of going in rooting for this, and I left like just super disappointed. So I was bummed that I didn't like it, but I didn't like it.
Now, I am curious, considering you did see the Alice in Wonderland films. Did you like those more than this?
I saw the first one back in 2010. I never saw Through the Looking Glass a couple years ago. Okay. I thought that looked like trash, and from what I heard, it was.
So compared to Dumbo, what did you think of Alice in Wonderland?
Yeah, so I enjoyed the 2010 film because like that world is weird anyway. And so Tim Burton just kind of going crazy. I mean, Johnny Depp is over the top, but it worked for me as the Mad Hatter. Sure. So but then I don't know. I think just the reputation and the way Alice in Wonderland held up, I don't think it held up well. And so by the time Through the Looking Glass came out, it didn't make a ton of money. That's why they're not doing anymore. People weren't excited. But I also just didn't think it looked good. But Dumbo it was interesting. But I was excited because I think Tim Burton paints outcasts really well, I think even with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but of course, Edward Scissorhands. So I was looking forward to that. But
the thing that I would say shocked me the most about this live action film, as we've discussed, that first animated film is extraordinarily emotional.
Yes.
And you would think that a film double the length, more time to emotionally connect with characters, you would even have more emotion felt. And I didn't. Don't get me wrong, like during the whole Baby Mine sequence in this, there was definitely a moment of aw, but it wasn't like like I was watching
the pillow. Right.
Yeah. So that was shocking to me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna assume you felt the same way.
Well, yeah, but it wasn't even like, maybe a little awe. And I will say, Dumbo's design, Dumbo was super cute. The eyes, the way he was animated, I thought Dumbo himself looked great throughout the movie. during the epic, flying scenes, but also just the sweet, tender moments. But the baby mine scene, the most iconic scene from the original, and when everyone remembers the song that makes everyone cry, was, I thought, just kind of essentially another throwaway moment, at least the song portion. And look, it's so Tim Burton, and I love it. The girl playing like the ukulele by the fire, singing it. But it was like, why are they? It just did not feel like it had anything to do with the movie. Whereas I just wish maybe it was just kind of a song that played in the background, like the original, just a lullaby that played. I don't have to have, just because we have live action actors in it, I don't have to have them singing it, And so it just felt like, okay, great. They threw it in there because it's Baby Mine and it's Dumbo, so we had to have it. I just did not feel like it.
Yeah, so here's something interesting about that. Now, I was listening to an interview with Danny Elfman, who of course wrote the score for this film, and he was talking about how with Tim Burton in the past, anything he worked on, whether it was, Batman, he was like, Tim Burton was very specific. You don't work any of that original TV Batman theme into this score. This is its own thing. Or, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I don't want any of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory in this score. So Tim Burton doesn't like to reuse music. Mm-hmm. And in the case of Dumbo, he kind of made an exception. My guess is that Disney probably gave the note of Baby Mine needs to be in there, but even still, Danny Elfman worked in bits of Casey Jr.'s song. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And of course, Elephants on Parade can be heard as well. So I feel like, yes, we have those moments of the original score in there, but maybe slightly begrudgingly, because it sounds like something that in general Tim Burton doesn't like doing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't know.
That might be the reason.
Oh yeah, we just live in a really interesting time with, it's like the age of nostalgia. You talk about it a lot. And now with all these live action, it's not just live action reimaginings. I mean, Beauty and the Beast was marketed as a live action remake. So yeah, this one wasn't so much, I don't think, like a live action remake marketed that way. But still, I just think there are certain things that and look, I don't know. Because is there a measurement? Is there something that they have to do? I don't know. But personally, I feel like you have to have Baby Mine in a Dumbo movie.
Sure.
The thing that made the original, not the only thing, but the most iconic thing from the original, most iconic sequence, it has to be in here. And so to just have, that sequence that was just like, oh, okay, that was it. They checked it off the list, I guess. And then I thought that the relationship, I mean, they look, it's a short movie, the original, but they spend time to establish that mother-son relationship to where when they are separated, your heart is ripped out. Here, I only feel because I know I'm supposed to, and because, it's Dumbo, and here's the Baby Mine sequence. Like, I don't feel like they earned, I don't feel like the emotions were earned. And then, we haven't gotten there yet, but all the, human actors, the human characters, I feel like they were just there to essentially tell us how to feel about Dumbo. I don't know.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. One of the things I found interesting about the human characters was in this one, we didn't have the other elephants making fun of Dumbo, which is such a huge part of the animated film. Like, all of the adult female elephants were the ones making fun of Dumbo. And in this, we didn't have that at all. It was all the humans doing it, which I found to be kind of interesting. There is a moment that I thought was honestly a stroke of genius, and it's a tiny little thing, but I love when the circus crowds are being introduced to Dumbo. He's in this little carriage, and it says, our dear baby Jumbo. And then I forget, the carriage get banged, something specifically happens that causes the D in deer to fall down in place of the J in Jumbo, and that spells out Dumbo. You didn't like that? I thought it was awesome.
I have to be completely honest, literally rolled my eyes.
I loved it.
But see, I'm also the guy, I'm okay with how they explained Han Solo's name in Solo, a Star Wars story. So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. I just really, I was like, that's smart. You know what I liked about it is because I didn't see it coming from a mile away. A lot of times in those situations, I'll look at a sign and we're like, oh, okay, this is going to happen to make this happen. And I didn't see that with the Dumbo thing. And I don't know. I thought it was a cute moment. What else? Of course, we said Pink Elephants was, as a person who likes Pink Elephants on Parade, you agree it was completely unnecessary.
Completely.
Okay.
completely.
So once again,
And
a
probably,
throwaway.
honestly, the sequence I was most looking forward to, given Tim Burton's visual style. It's like,
Sure.
okay, give me something weird. Let this stand out for this generation, for this new film. Not at all.
Yeah. Now, Michael Keaton's character is interesting. He ends up being the entrepreneur who buys the circus, this little downbeaten circus that Danny DeVito owns. And this is a character completely made for this film, which I kind of liked because, I liked that it wasn't just a remake. I liked that it told more of the story and that it kept going on. And I thought his character was interesting. I did have problems with some of the acting in this film. And these were like really good actors.
Yeah.
But I was just like, what is Michael Keaton doing? What is Danny DeVito doing? Like a lot of the film, I kept feeling that way.
And Jeff, those kids, I thought those kids were bad. The two kids, I don't even know the characters' names, but the ones that, befriend Dumbo, Colin Farrell's kids in the movie, I just stiff and cold and not warm performances. Yeah. I had fun with Danny DeVito because, look, I think they were all, maybe not Colin Farrell, I think everyone was overacting a bit.
Yeah.
But I was okay with Danny DeVito overacting because as like a circus owner, carnival barker kind of guy, it just kind of worked for me. But Michael Keaton, whom I love and who has worked fantastically with Tim Burton before, and obviously in recent years with his career resurgence here.
The Founder. Oh my gosh. Just throwing that out there. If you haven't seen The Founder, see The Founder.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I haven't seen that.
Have you not? Oh my, do you know The Founder?
Yeah, a couple years ago, the McDonald's one.
Yeah. Oh gosh, The Founder is a phenomenal movie and frankly should be a stage play. Like it's
cool.
Really, really good.
Well, you should do it.
Anyway.
Yeah, but I just thought I'm like you. What is he doing? What accent is he doing? Sometimes it's an accent. Sometimes it's a American accent. This is bad.
Yeah, it was weird. As far as casting and such is concerned, there was a role. I felt bad thinking this, but the second I saw him, I was like, oh, if he were still alive. So do you remember the strongman in the movie?
Yes.
The big black guy strongman. Yeah. If he were still alive, it totally would have been Michael Clark Duncan.
I can see that, yeah.
Because, of course, Tim Burton worked with him in Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
And it felt like the role was written for Michael Clark Duncan. That's when I was watching it. I was like, oh, that made me sad. But I will say the best line delivery in the entire film was Danny DeVito's secretary once Michael Keaton hired him. Remember, like, the dive-in meetings? I'll let you know. Like, I literally laughed out loud anytime that woman spoke.
Yeah.
She was hilarious to me. Once again, over the top, ridiculous, but awesome.
Yeah. And obviously that's the script, right? And maybe the direction too, I mean, it's both the script and the direction.
What the poor acting?
With the overacting, the material they're given.
That's a director's choice. Yeah. That's
but I also don't feel like they were given much with the script, which, do you know who wrote the script?
I don't. Do you?
I think it's EHREN. So Aaron Kruger, who wrote The Ring horror movie that I love.
Okay.
But most recently wrote 3 Transformers movies and wrote the screenplay for Ghost in the Shell with Scarlett Johansson from a couple years ago. Which Transformers movies being big visual spectacles, but having human characters that either are over the top or you just don't care about them. And I thought you could see that with this movie.
Sure.
So, yeah, I was just super bummed.
Yeah. Now, I will say this whole Dreamland sequence, I kind of liked. It was very Coney Island.
Loved that. I loved the design of this place.
So the design, which, of course, when you get a Tim Burton film, you're going to get some beautiful, scenic, artistic designs in the film. So the look of Dreamland was very cool, but I will tell you, it made me think of something that I was like, oh, why couldn't this be the case? When I saw Dreamland, I was like, this should have been the new Paradise Pier. Forget Pixar Pier. Give me a version of Dreamland from this Dumbo. Oh, that would have been beautiful.
That would have been cool.
And did you see the tribute to Disneyland in Dreamland?
Was it Rocket to the Moon?
Yeah.
Yes, I loved that. Yes.
There was a Rocket to the Moon in Dreamland, which of course is from, 1955 Disneyland. And I thought that was incredible. I was just like, oh, what a fun little tribute in the film. There were some fun moments in the film. I loved the ringmaster in the Dreamland Circus who was like, let's get ready for Dumbo.
Oh, that was another cringy part. Oh,
It totally is.
I think that, and I think maybe, I don't know if many people are going to disagree that it's all over the top. Maybe it just works for some people and doesn't work for that kind of stuff just did not work for me.
And I totally get that. I think the reason why I liked it is because I wasn't feeling the feels the way I expected to. So whenever there is any sort of response from me, in these cases, laugh out loud moments, that even though it's like eye rolly, I'm like, well, at least it's affecting me in some way.
I'm reacting to it.
Yes. And so like they were memorable to me. Yeah. But honestly, the favorite moment with the ringmaster was the fact that the lyrics from the Crow song were used in dialogue.
That was really clever. I think that was a very good use of nostalgic and a nice throwback to the original. Yeah, I liked that.
So the whole you may have seen a horsefly, you may have seen a dragonfly, you may have even seen a housefly, but you've never seen an elephant fly, which of course are phenomenal lyrics from that classic song. So I thought that was pretty cool. One of the things I will say that disappointed me a little, you said you really liked the look of this, but I found the CG to be very inconsistent. There were scenes where I was like, ooh, Dumbo looks like a real elephant. He seems to have some like gravity to him.
Yeah.
And then there were scenes that I'm like, what, did you run out of budget and time? Like, that's just kind of what it felt like to me. Yeah. So I found it to be very, very inconsistent.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think the design, and I think it's just a testament to a character that doesn't speak. How are you going to show the character's emotions in the eyes? And I thought that worked. I think a lot of the background CGI I agree with you. I thought that was pretty inconsistent. We didn't talk about it. I liked the look of Casey Jr. I thought it was cool to see a physical live action Casey Jr. I liked that.
Yeah, it was cool. It actually made me like really happy that we have a Casey Jr. here at Disneyland, which I don't think any other Disney park has.
We have a stationary one in Storybook Circus.
Okay.
It just got refurbished and finally looks great because it was all moldy and green. So finally it's all sparkly clean again. So
they got it ready for the live action film. Yeah. Tim Burton needed his photo op next to it, so they're like, let's clean it up.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, no, I would agree. Like, honestly, like the first visual I remember seeing of this film was a press photo of Tim Burton in Casey Jr., and I was like, immediately, that's what was like, ooh, this could be cool.
Yeah.
I just love old circus history. Yeah. Like, I have several books with, all the old advertisements and just the look of the circus. It's such a cool barbaric look, I love it. It's fun. So one of the things that I loved in this film, and I can't remember if I mentioned this on Disney Coast to Coast. I had a conversation with Tiffany Mank. I can't remember if it was on the show or just in real life, but I loved the Dumbo stuffed animals that they sold in the film. And I said, this was, weeks ago, if not a month ago, I was like, oh gosh, I hope that they sell those exact stuffed animals in the parks, because like that would be awesome. And sure enough, they're selling those exact stuffed animals. I think they even advertise it as seen in the live action Dumbo.
Yeah, that was cool. It was a little like on the nose, but I thought that's cool.
Totally.
Yeah, but I was like,
totally.
Because it looks like the ones right. I guess it is the same ones right in the parks that you can get, or at Springs or whatever. So yeah.
So I love that. There was one other thing in the film that I was like, you know what? I would buy that. Obviously, they wouldn't sell nearly as well as the Dumbo stuffed animals, but that weather vane that we see at the end of the film and at the beginning of most of the trailers. Cool. Oh my gosh, that weather vane of Jumbo with Dumbo right behind. I think grabbing the tail, if I'm remembering correctly. Oh, I would totally buy that weather vane. That thing was beautiful. It has moments.
It does. It's there's a great movie in there. Obviously, the base story is fantastic.
Yeah. So, it's not a home run in my opinion, even less so in your opinion.
Yes.
But it's still a good movie. It's a film that I would not necessarily buy on Blu-ray. Yeah. I'm happy I saw it. It had some enjoyable moments. Oh, and the most Tim Burton moment, in my opinion, is when they go into like that science museum and those robotics are in there. I was like, this is such a Edward Scissorhands flashback in here is what it felt like to me. So
where would you rank this with the new live action Disney movies that we have?
Okay, so what has there been? There's been Beauty and the Beast. There's been...
I mean, would you count Alice in Wonderland?
I guess, but I didn't see it. I had no interest.
Maleficent, Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, Jungle Book, Pete's Dragon.
Oh gosh, that's some of them I haven't seen. Pete's Dragon I never saw. Jungle Book I didn't like as much as a lot of people did. I thought it was fine. I probably enjoyed more moments in this one.
Okay.
Beauty and the Beast I really liked, although it was just a retelling.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's definitely not the bottom, definitely not the top. So it's somewhere in the middle for me. Cool. Anywho, anything else you want to add before we get to some trivia here?
Go watch the original. It's fantastic. It's a great revisit. And you guys, you can squeeze it in before work, after work. It's an hour long.
Yeah, totally. Anyways, guys, I think that means it's trivia time. All right, Jonathan, do you want to hit me with a trivia question first, or shall I hit you?
I'll go and hit you with my question.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay. Verna Felton voices, we were talking about those judgmental elephants in the original. She voices, Verna Felton, the elephant matriarch. So essentially the one that's most vocal, most judgmental. She worked interestingly enough, she is uncredited, but she voiced Mrs. Jumbo in the original as well, the one line of just stating Dumbo's name. But she worked with Disney a few times over the next couple decades. And let's see, in total, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other times. Can you name any of those other times that she voiced Disney characters?
It's funny because as I was watching the film, I was like, oh, I know this voice. This voice has done a lot of Disney, but I couldn't put specific characters. I'm going to do some guesses here. Was she the Queen of Hearts?
That's one of them.
Okay, Queen of Hearts and Alice in Wonderland. Was she the stepmother in Cinderella?
No.
Okay, because that's the one who did Maleficent as well. It's such a familiar voice. Who else was there?
The fairy godmother in Cinderella, so you were close.
I was going to say that, darn it. Okay.
So Queen of Hearts, and then this one was more obscure. I don't think I would have gotten this. Aunt Sarah and Lady and the Tramp.
Okay.
And then finally, Elephant in the Jungle Book.
And, okay. Oh, yes, for sure.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of cool to play an elephant again.
Interesting.
Yeah, I love that. And you see that a lot in those older, I mean, even the live action Disney films from the 50s and 60s, using a lot of the same talent again. You just associate them with Disney. So that was cool to see how much she worked with the company.
Yeah, well, I have a similar type of question where Danny DeVito has been a voice in a Disney animated film. Can you tell me what that is? But also, two-parter here. What other films has Danny DeVito done with Mr. Tim Burton? So let's start with the animated film. This one's fairly easy.
Danny DeVito. Hercules.
Yeah.
I don't know the character's name. I haven't seen Hercules since I was like a little kid.
His name is Phil.
Phil.
Yeah, and he has done, in addition to Dumbo, 3 other films with Tim Burton. Can you name those?
In addition to Dumbo. Batman Returns.
With Michael Keaton,
yes.
By the way. Of course, Michael Keaton is Batman,
yes.
And Danny DeVito was the Penguin.
Was he in Big Fish?
Yes.
I've never seen Big Fish.
Okay, he's Amos Calloway, I believe a ringmaster type of character once again.
Okay.
And then this one I wouldn't have gotten. This one's kind of an obscure Tim Burton movie that I've never seen.
Okay. What decade?
Ooh, maybe the 90s? I don't even know.
90s. Yeah, there's quite a bit of Tim Burton I haven't seen. Is it Ed Wood?
No, good guess. It's Mars Attacks.
What?
Mars Attacks. You've never heard of it?
No, is that like an old 50s movie or something?
It was. This was a remake that Tim Burton did.
Yeah, cool.
I want to say in the 90s.
Okay.
So his role is the rude gambler, so it might just be a small part.
Okay.
But he's in that as well. So
cool.
Anyway, Jonathan, thank you for joining for this talk about Dumbo. I'm sorry you didn't enjoy the film more, and I made you talk about it for an hour.
Oh no, honestly, I'm probably gonna go see it again. Give it a second chance.
Are you really?
Yeah, I am. I mean, do you have? Well, I have AMC A-list, so
I do as well.
Yeah,
yes,
so
yes.
you're just wasting time, not money. So it's no, and I'll probably squeeze it in because I want to give it a second chance just to see if there's anything I didn't pick up on. To be completely honest with you, there were a couple times that
You fell asleep.
dozed off a little bit, not for long, but I just caught myself. So I'll probably go see it again.
Okay, well, why don't you let the folks know where they can find you before we get going here?
Absolutely, yeah. So you can just find me on Twitter at Jonathan Harvill, just my name.
Excellent. And of course, folks, don't forget to head to DizneyCoastToCoast.com and sign up for the new DCTC music playlist. It is a new month, which means there's a new music playlist out there. Just head to DizneyCoastToCoast.com, click on playlist. Of course, while you're there, you can find all of our social media as well. And other than that, folks, have a magical day. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePaoli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com.